Today, we are going to crack the code on one of the most iconic charts in all of science, the periodic table. And I'm going to show you a simple, kind of fun and weirdly effective way to memorize the entire thing. So let's just dive right in.
So let's be honest. If you've ever looked at this grid of 118 elements and just felt completely overwhelmed, you are not alone. It looks like this giant, impossible wall of random letters and numbers. But what if I told you that memorizing it is way, way easier than you think?
You see, the secret isn't about brute force memorization or flipping through endless flashcards. Nope, it's about tapping into your brain's natural superpower, remembering stories. And you're going to find out that the more ridiculous the story is, the easier it is to remember.
And this secret weapon, it actually has a name. Mnemonics. This is the one technique that's going to transform the periodic table from this daunting chart into a bunch of silly, memorable phrases you won't forget.
So what exactly is a mnemonic? Well, it's just a memory aid. It's a trick that connects what you want to learn with something that's super easy to remember, like a simple phrase. And trust me, the sillier the phrase, the better. Because our brains are basically hardwired to remember stuff that's weird and out of the ordinary.
So, here's our game plan. We are definitely not going to try to learn all 118 elements in one go. That is just a recipe for failure. Instead, we're going to break it down into 3 manageable chunks. That way we can build our confidence as we go.
All right, let's get started with the easy wins, the first 3 rows, or as they're called, periods. This is where we're going to build some real momentum and prove to you just how easy this whole thing can be.
Period 1 is the simplest one of all. It's only got 2 elements, and our mnemonic is just 2 words, happy hero.
And here's exactly how it works. Happy gives us H for hydrogen. Hero gives us He for helium. Simple, right? And just like that, period 1 is done. See?
Okay, now for period 2, the sentence gets a little longer and definitely a little sillier. Little boys bring cute, naughty owls for night.
So let's break this one down. Little gives us Li for lithium. Boys is B for beryllium. Bring is B for boron. And that pattern just keeps going all the way to night for Ni, which is neon. You see how it works? Each word's first letter or 2 points you right to the element symbol.
All right, let's lock in the last of our easy wins here with period 3. Our phrase is, Sally makes amazing silly pasta. She cleans artfully.
Now, this one has a tiny little trick you need to know about. For Sally, this symbol is Na, which stands for sodium. This is one of those cases where the symbol comes from its old Latin name, natrium. You just have to remember that one little connection. But right after that, we're back on track. Makes for Mg, magnesium, all the way down to artfully for R, argon. And boom, you've just memorized the first 18 elements. Okay, we've built up some serious momentum. So now we're ready to conquer the middle ground, the much longer rows of periods 4 and 5. But don't worry, the principle is exactly the same. The sentences just get a little more, well, a little more epic.
Okay, I know, this one's a mouthful, but try not to think of it as just a sentence. Think of it as one single ridiculous story. You've got a king, you've got clever monkeys, and it ends with him asking some sweet, brave kids for help. The key is just remembering the flow of that one weird narrative.
And believe it or not, every single word in that story has its place. It takes you perfectly from king for K, potassium, right through all those transition metals like iron, where 4 stands for Fe, and all the way to the end with kids for Kr, krypton.
Ready for period 5? Okay, our next story is about some really silly young zebras and some smart, intelligent xenophobes. Yep, it's another totally bizarre narrative, which is exactly what makes it so easy to remember.
And again, the magic is right there in the details. The story starts with really for RB, rubidium, and it guides you all the way to xenophobes for Z, xenon. It just works. And with that, guess what? We're more than halfway done.
All right, we've reached the final boss, the longest and weirdest rows on the table. For these, we have to tweak our strategy just a little bit. See, periods 6 and 7 are so long because they include those 2 extra rows you always see floating at the bottom of the chart, the lanthanides and the actinides. So we're going to need a special approach for these.
So here's the crucial trick. We divide and conquer. Instead of trying to remember one giant, impossible mnemonic, we're going to break each period into 3 smaller, much more manageable parts.
We'll learn a phrase for the first couple of elements, then a separate phrase for that long series at the bottom, and then a final phrase for the rest of the row.
And here's exactly how that looks for period 6. We break it into 3 mini-stories. First up, a short one, Caesar's Bar for cesium and barium. Next, we tackle that long lanthanide series with Lazy cats prefer napping, please send every good, tiny dog home early to you, Lucky. And finally, to finish out the row, we have Happy tigers walk right on ice, past all huge, tall people, big, poor artists rest nicely. See, 3 smaller pieces are so much easier to remember. And we use the exact same 3-part strategy for the very last row, period 7. It kicks off with frightening rabbits for francium and radium. Then we have the story for the actinides. A clever thief paid unusually. Notorious people avoided catching big elephants for many nights later. And we finish the entire table, the whole shebang, with one last little phrase. Raging felines don't really need open greenhouses. And that's it. We just covered the entire periodic table.
So let's just boil this whole thing down. What's the strategy? First, you break the table down into manageable chunks. Second, you use really silly, memorable phrases for each chunk. And third, you just connect each word in your silly phrase to an element symbol. It's a simple system, and it means you can totally do this. You've got this.
And you know, by learning this, you haven't just memorized some boring chart. You've actually learned the fundamental language of chemistry. You have the code for the building blocks that make up literally everything in the universe.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. The periodic table isn't just something to be memorized. It's a tool, a map, meant to be used. So now that you've unlocked it, what are you going to build?